What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Hustle with JesseW, and today we're going to be going over how Morgan Stanley dumped a ton of stock ahead of that whole Archegos stuff. Check it out. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this video here. Now this is a CNBC report that came out a couple days ago. I just saw it yesterday. It came out on the 6th. I saw it yesterday on the 7th, and I'm going to go over it today here with you. And we're going to jump into some of these details that have been going on with Archegos and Morgan Stanley and the fire sale, the massive dump. Viacom was down a ton. So, I mean, we're going to go over a bunch of this information here. Before we do me a quick favor and smash the like button for me and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, right? Remember, when you hit the like button and comment in the comment section below, it helps out the channel's algorithm tremendously. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this video. Also, guys, remember to come by the daytraderchatroom.com. I'm going to leave a link down there in the description section and in the comment section so you can join us for free on Mondays and trade with us completely for free. So here you go. CNBC. All right. Morgan Stanley dumped $5 billion in Archegos stock the night before the massive fire sale hit rivals. Now, people are talking about, stuff like, oh, insider trading, stuff like that, right? That's what people have been talking about regarding this on Twitter and such. And here you have the author, Hugh Son. Morgan Stanley, key points. Morgan Stanley sold about $5 billion in shares from Archegos doomed bets to a small group of hedge funds late Thursday, March 25th. Morgan Stanley sold about $5 billion in shares from Archegos doomed bets to a small group of hedge funds late Thursday, March 25th. Morgan Stanley had the consent of Archegos, run by former Tiger management analyst Bill Huang, to shop around its stock late Thursday. These people said the bank offered the shares at a discount, telling the hedge funds that they were part of a margin call that could prevent the collapse of an unnamed client. But the investment bank had information it didn't share with stock buyers. The basket of shares it was selling was merely the opening salvo of an unprecedented wave of sales by Morgan Stanley and 5 other investment banks starting the very next day. Wow, dude! How that is some shady stuff. Wow, I've read some shady stuff on here, and this, my friends, takes the cake. This is, I think, the equivalent of you having a used car for sale that you know the transmission's blowing. Like, you know the transmission's done, all right? That thing's probably not going to take on another 1,000 miles, and you sell it, don't mention anything to the buyer. In fact, when the buyer asks you about, hey, how's the transmission? You're like, it's fine, hasn't given me any problems. And then you just sell it. Oh my God, that is bad. I'm going to read that again. But the investment bank had information it didn't share with the stock buyers. The basket of shares it was selling was merely the opening salvo of an unprecedented wave of sales by Morgan Stanley and 5 other investment banks starting the very next day. That is rough. The night before Archegos Capital's story burst into public view late last month, the fund's biggest prime broker quietly unloaded some of its risky positions to hedge funds. People with knowledge of the trades told CNBC. Morgan Stanley sold about $5 billion in shares from Archegos doomed bets on US media and Chinese tech names to a small group of hedge funds late Thursday, March 25th. According to the people who requested anonymity to speak frankly about the transaction, its previous unreported detail that shows the extraordinary steps some banks took to protect themselves from incurring losses from a client's meltdown. The moves benefited Morgan Stanley, the world's biggest equity trading shop, and its shareholders. While the bank escaped from the episode without material losses, other firms were less fortunate. Credit Suisse said Tuesday it took a $4.7 billion hit after unwinding losing Archegos positions. The firm also cut its dividend and halted share buybacks. Wow. Like, seriously. Look, everybody here knew that this guy was severely over-leveraged. All these banks knew it. So it's like basically they were just stepping on each other. But dude, how do you go and sell trash to somebody else knowing it's trash and not warning them? That's shady. I don't know. It's rough. Like, I don't even understand how that's, legal at this point. Because Credit Suisse knew, Morgan Stanley knew, right? All these people knew what was going on. They all took on these bets. They all loaned this guy tons of leverage. All right, everybody knew. And then they were like, I don't feel comfortable. I think I'm going to get out of this. And they were like, I'm just going to, maybe they're like Congress. They just kicked the ball down the field for a later date. But in this case, they kicked it down to like somebody else's field. Ouch, man. Morgan Stanley had the consent of Archegos run by former Tiger management analyst Bill Huang. Didn't Tiger management go bankrupt? To shop around its stock late Thursday, these people said the bank offered the shares at a discount, telling the hedge funds that they were part of a margin call that could prevent the collapse of an unnamed client. But the investment bank had information it didn't share with stock buyers. The basket of shares it was selling of 8 or so names, including Baidu and Tencent Music, was merely the opening salvo of an unprecedented wave of tens of billions of dollars in sales by Morgan Stanley and other investment banks starting the very next day. Some of the clients felt betrayed by Morgan Stanley, you think? Because they didn't receive the crucial context. According to one of the people familiar with the trades, the hedge funds learned later in press reports that Huang and his prime brokers convened Thursday night to attempt an orderly unwind of the positions, a difficult task considering the risk that word would get out. That means that at least some bankers at Morgan Stanley knew the extent of the selling that was likely and that Huang's firm was unlikely to be saved. These people contend the knowledge helped Morgan Stanley and rival Goldman Sachs avoid losses because their firms quickly disposed of shares tied to Archegos. Morgan Stanley and Goldman declined to comment on this article. Of course they declined to comment. They're not going to comment. Are you crazy? Morgan Stanley was the biggest holder of the top 10 stocks traded by Archegos at the end of 2020, with about 18 billion in positions overall, according to an analyst of filings by market participants. Credit Suisse was the second most exposed with about 10 billion. These sources noted. That means that Morgan Stanley could have faced roughly $10 billion in losses had it not acted quickly. I think it was an moment where Morgan was looking at potentially 10 billion in losses and their books alone, and they had to move risk fast. The person with knowledge said, I love it how this is so top secret. The person with knowledge said, the Goldman sale of 10.5 billion of Archegos related stock on Friday, March 26, was widely reported after the bank blasted emails to a broad list of clients. Morgan Stanley moved the night before went unreported until now because the bank dealt with fewer than half dozen hedge funds, allowing the transaction to remain hidden. The clients of hedge funds, sometimes dubbed equity capital market strategists, typically don't have the views on the merits of individual stocks. Instead, they'll purchase blocks of stock from big prime brokers like Morgan Stanley and others when the discount is deep enough, usually to unwind the trades over time. Morgan Stanley and Goldman sold the first blocks of shares with the consent of Archegos, and the floodgates opened. Prime brokers, including Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse, then exercised their rights under default, sizing the firm's collateral and selling off positions on Friday, according to the sources. That is crazy, guys. That's insane. Do you want to see what the chart looks like on one of these? This is criminal. This company did nothing. Nothing. And they got absolutely demolished. Wow. I wonder if it's going to get down here to the 50-day moving average one more time. Maybe it can set up for a little swing trade there, maybe for like a quick little pop, a little bounce. Man, that is harsh, harsh, harsh. That hurts to watch. And this goes on and on and on and on. And I am fully convinced this is not the first time, nor will it be the last time we see something like this happen. All right? That is insane. This is probably one of the biggest ones. Let's see here what the ending of this says. Morgan Stanley largely exited its Archegos positions by Friday, March 26th, with the exception of one holding, 45 million shares of Viacom, which it shopped to clients on Sunday, according to the People. The bank's delayed disposal of Viacom shares has sparked questions and speculations that it held onto the stock because it wanted a secondary offering run by Morgan Stanley the week before to close. Despite leaving some of its hedge fund clients feeling less than thrilled, Morgan Stanley isn't likely to lose them over the Archegos episode, the People said. Wow. That's because the funds want access to shares of hot initial public offerings that Morgan Stanley, as the top banker to the US tech industry, can dole out, they said. Wow, so Morgan Stanley's here like the mafia. They're like, yep, I'm going to wreck you with a bad deal, and I'm not going to lose you as a customer because you ain't got nowhere else to shop, buddy. What? What? Dude, that is insane. I'm really surprised at the level of audacity of this entire scam. And I said it, I think this is one giant scam. Let me know your thoughts. Drop them in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted when I upload my next video, and I'll catch you on the next one.